Hi guys, another lesson from Chapter 11 of Fundamentals of Math. This time we're talking section 11.4 about the subtraction of integers. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here's a good definition for you guys to write down in your notes. The subtraction of an integer is the same as adding its opposite. For any integers a and b, and here's an example, a minus b is the same thing as a plus negative b. Now this is a lot of gibberish kind of thrown at you in mathematical language, so let's try to give you some actual numbers just to kind of prove that this is true. For example, 5 minus 2, that is the same thing as 3. I think we all agree with that. You guys can get a calculator out and check that if you wanted to. 5 minus 2 equals 3. But this whole statement is saying that 5 minus 2 is the same thing as 5 plus negative 2. And this is something that we've kind of talked about last lesson, the addition of integers. 5 plus negative 2 would follow the rule where we would subtract the values. 5 minus 2 would be 3. And we'd keep the sign of the larger value. In this case, 5 is a larger absolute value than negative 2. So the whole thing will be positive. And here we see that 3 is equal to 3. So this is true. Now, this is going to take some getting used to because a lot of students really struggle with the idea of, well, what's the difference between subtraction and negative values? And the real answer is there's not really a difference. All right, you can think of subtraction as the addition of a negative value. Another kind of key term that we want to focus on in this lesson is the idea of a double negative. A double negative is illustrated here. When you have two negative signs right next to each other, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. I'm going to highlight right next to each other. They become positive. And these guys are called double negatives. Double negatives. All right, so here is an example for you guys. 5 minus negative 2. These two negative signs, a subtraction sign and a negative sign, they are right next to each other. And they're going to combine to make a positive statement. So this is the same thing as 5 plus 2. As soon as you see two negative signs together, all right, they're going to combine to make a plus sign. These double negatives right here, they go back and forth and they kind of change. You could actually think of a negative sign meaning the opposite of something. So the negative sign right here could mean the opposite of negative 2, which is positive 2. I think that's kind of helpful for us. Like if I asked you, if we kind of use that definition, if I ask you what is the opposite of negative 3, you would say positive 3. If I asked you what is the opposite of positive 6, you would say negative 6. So when you have double negatives, it could refer to the opposite. All right. So right here, the opposite of negative 2 would be positive 2. And these two double negative signs, they combine to make a positive sign. Sometimes as human beings, we try to use our words to try to get out of things. And we try to be extra sneaky about this. Like maybe we use double negatives in the context like your friend Relisa just dropped a brand new TikTok. And they're, hey, yo, dog, did you see my new TikTok? It was fresh, bro, right? And you don't want to tell them that it wasn't that fresh. So you say, well, instead of saying it's not fresh, you say, well, it's not fresh. And then that double negative, triple negative, it kind of goes back and forth. So it means the opposite of something. All right? So keeping these ideas in mind, subtraction of an integer and double negatives, let's go ahead and try to practice how to change the following subtraction problems to addition problems. All right, because this might be helpful. We just learned rules on how to add integers, and maybe writing them this way might be a little bit easier. So here's a first example. I have negative 3 minus 4. This is the same thing as negative 3 plus negative 4. Right? Here we have a double negative. So this is the same thing as 8 just stays, this first number stays the same. Then we put plus, and then we have a double negative, which is going to be positive. So this is the same thing as 8. These guys combine to make plus in the 5. Okay, let's look at the skill check number 1 problems to kind of see how these things work. All right, complete the statement. We want to make these guys into an addition of integer problem. So I have negative 2 plus negative 8. Right? All I did was add this. Negative 2 plus minus 8 is the same thing as negative 2 plus negative 8. All right, cool. Well, here we have a double negative, so the double negative becomes a positive, and I just have negative 5 plus 7. We don't have to have a sign here because these two negatives combine to make a plus sign. It would be like these two guys coming here, and this guy becoming this guy, and this guy combining up and down. So if one turns left and right, these two guys combine to make a plus sign. Here I have another double negative, so that becomes a plus sign. The 3 stays the same, the front number always stays the same, and this just becomes a 6. This is 0, stays the same, plus I'm going to put negative 9. So on your homework, you're going to be having problems that are trying to fill in the blank. What we want to get used to is checking for the double negative signs, and if it's not a double negative sign, the sign just stays with the answer. All right. After a subtraction problem is changed to an addition problem, the rules for adding the integers are then applied. These are the rules we talked about in the last lesson, where if you are adding integers that have the same sign, you add the values and keep the common sign. And if you're adding integers that have a different sign, you subtract the values and keep the sign of the larger value. So these same rules are going to be in effect if you follow our addition of integer rules. Use the definition of subtraction of integers to solve the following. So one thing we can do is we can rewrite these as addition problems. All right. So I could write this as negative 7 plus negative 4. And because they are the same sign, we're going to add them together. So step 1 was add the values. And step 2 is keep the common sign. Keep common sign. So for this problem, I would go ahead and get 7 plus 4 is 11. And because they're both negative, my answer is negative 11. For part B, we have a problem where we have a double negative. And what do double negatives always turn to? That's right, an addition sign. Now, I have negative 9 plus 13. These are the rules of different integers. And if we have different signs, we're supposed to subtract the value. So this is the same thing as 13 minus 9, which is 4. And which value has a larger, which number has a larger absolute value? Which is bigger, the absolute value of negative 9 or the absolute value of 13? Well, 13 is a larger absolute value, which is a positive value, so that means our answer is positive. Our answer is positive 4. So we need to kind of get used to these rules and just kind of understand that if you owe somebody $7 and you borrow $4 more, now you're in debt $11. Or if you owe someone $9, but then your mom gives you $13, well, now you have $4 left over. Another good way to think about this is if you were like a scuba diver, right? So let's go ahead and draw like little waves. All right. If you were a scuba diver And maybe instead of going left and right, like on a number line, you're a scuba diver and you go down 9 feet. All right? So you went down 9 feet. But then you have to return and you decide to go back up on your boat. Let's call this a boat. And this guy right here, and it has like a little smokestack, and a little smoke coming out of it. All right, you decide to go back up 13 feet. You went down 9, but you went up 13. That means you're going to be up at a positive 4 altitude. So whatever helps you remember these, I'm in favor. Let's go ahead and try this one. We have 4 minus 16. This is the same thing as 4 plus negative 16. 4 plus negative 16 is going to give us a negative answer because we have a negative higher absolute value sign. And if you had $4, but then you had to pay someone negative 16, all right, then you would end up having a difference of negative 12, right? You had $4, but then you owed someone, I remember I owed someone $16 for all the Takis that I buy at break. Well, that add up over every day. Well, then you'll be in debt $12. Here we have a double negative sign. Double negative sign turns to a positive sign, and this just becomes 11 plus 3, which is pretty easy. 11 plus 3 is 14. Notice they're both positive values. I have a positive answer. All right, the last few that we're going to work on are these last 3. We want to go ahead and subtract 6 minus 8. So if I asked you to figure out, is this answer going to be positive or negative? All right, without doing any math, I can look at 6 and I can look at 8. And which one has a larger absolute value? 6 or 8? 8 does. Because this has a larger absolute value, this is going to be a negative answer. These are two different signs. 6 is positive and negative 8 is negative. And because negative 8 has a larger absolute value, our answer is going to be negative. Now, if you subtract them, 8 minus 6 is 2. So our answer is negative 2. Here, we see that we have a double negative sign. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as negative 1 plus 1. Because a double negative sign becomes a positive sign, a plus sign. And if I add these two together, I realize that they're opposites. And whenever you add opposites together, they're going to cancel out and equal 0. If you went down 1 foot, but then back up 1 foot, you end up at a height of 0 feet. Here, we have another double negative, so I'm just going to rewrite this as 1 plus 9. The double negative sign becomes a plus sign. And because they're the same sign, we're going to add the values. 1 plus 9 is 10. We're going to keep the common sign. They're both positive, so our answer is positive. Well, there you have it. Use your homework to practice. Make sure you copy down all of these stuff in your notes. And if you have questions, definitely come back to me in my office hours, and we'll work on some problems. I know this isn't the easiest thing to understand, but it is really important that you get it. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace.